So, pro-Trump voters decided to attack the comments. Once again, I do not give a fuck because I am not pro-Trump. I'm not pro-Kamala. I have said that I've said that 5 or 6 different pods now. I am not pro-Trump or pro-Kamala. I'm not voting for either one of you motherfuckers. I wasn't voting for Biden. I don't care if Elvis Presley resurrected himself and got into the election. God damn it. I don't care if Bob Marley was a candidate. I ain't voting for nobody because I understand what the powers that be are actually doing. We have went over what they are actually doing. On top of, why would I vote for someone that is paid for in a absolute puppet? Have we not sat here and watched BlackRock recruiter specifically in verbatim tell y'all, we buy senators. We pay for senators. Politicians, presidents, we pay for them. Why the fuck would I want to vote for someone that is paid for? Think about that. You want to vote for somebody that is paid, that their decisions aren't even their own. What it do, King Ozma? I said this before, yo. Understand this. It don't matter who the fuck go in office. Project 2025 gets implemented regardless of who the fuck go in office. That's what y'all not getting. It don't matter if Trump, Biden, or goddamn George Zimmerman win. Project 2025 is happening. Cyber attacks and the economic collapse is happening. Whether or not you vote for either one of these motherfuckers. That's what I keep trying to get across to y'all. But I want to get but then I get pro-Trump voters in my comments telling me I don't know shit. Newsflash. I don't care to know shit about Trump like that. As far as his policies and what he's done, I don't care to know Kamala's policies like that. Because you know what both their policies are? The Georgia Guidestones keep humanity under 500 fucking million. How about that? There is a much bigger fight that I fight. There are spiritual people out here like King Ozma and I. There are spiritual people out here that actually fight the good fight of the Anunnaki versus the reptilians. That is the actual fight we are on. Mind, body, and soul. All that other shit, that surface level shit, I care not for. I care not for. Is much more deeper shit that people need to be more concerned about that's going on out here. Stop concerning yourselves with the face level of these people. But since y'all want to harp on Trump, I got something for your asses. Since you want to harp on Trump, we are going to start here. Because someone asked me, right? Let me finish rolling my blunt here. Somebody asked me, because they saw me post a picture of Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, yeah, we know he partied with Jeffrey Epstein, but was he on the flight logs? I'm not trying to mock you, by the way. I understand. This is why I do the pod, right? This is why I do the pod. Because when I see questions like that, I say, yeah, I love it. I love it. because my job, see, there's a difference between misinformed and uninformed. Misinformed is when people are misled on the information. I can understand that because there's a lot of misleading information. I try not to ever mislead you guys on information. What I try to do is I deal with the uninformed, meaning there are people that don't know at all that certain things exist. A la Trump being on the Epstein log and him being on about several different flights with this nigga.
And I quote him, "This is what the Democrats do to their Republican opponent who is leading them by a lot in the polls. This is AI, and it is very dangerous for our country. Also, I was never on Epstein's plane or at his stupid island. Strong laws ought to be developed against AI. It will be a big and very dangerous problem in the future," end quote. Here is the problem I have with this, not the AI part, that was awful. I have a problem with what he said because only part of his denial may be true. There is no record of Donald Trump ever visiting Jeffrey Epstein's Caribbean island, Little St. James. That is clear. But there is plenty of hard evidence that he rode on Epstein's plane, and not just one time, 7 times, at least 7 times. And we know that because his name appears in flight logs that are submitted to the FAA. Here's what they reveal. Trump flew 4 times in 1993. He flew once in 1994 and again in 1995. Those are in addition to a flight that was previously reported and documented in 1997. All of the flights were between Palm Beach and New York City. And the logs show Epstein was on board the plane with Trump as well, each of those times. The 1994 flight is notable because Trump's then-wife Marla Maples is also listed on the flight log. And according to those logs, they decided to bring along their then-infant daughter, Tiffany Trump, as well as the family's nanny. They are all on the log. On the flight in 1995, the logs say that Trump also brought along his then 12-year-old son, Eric Trump. So, again, these are documents that are submitted to the FAA. These are not just claims made by someone in a deposition. So it is hard to sort of reconcile when the president says, "I was never on that airplane." Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find.
So, if you would like to, of course, look up more information on Mr. Trump being on the Epstein flight log, we have went down a good list of people that was on that. Okay? And besides that, besides him partying with Jeffrey, 'cause I showed that clip already a couple times. It wasn't just the fact that I showed the picture. I showed the actual clip of him partying with Jeffrey Epstein. Right? So, I guess that part wasn't enough. So, fuck Jeffrey Epstein right now, right? Forget Jeff. Matter of fact, while we're on the subject of Jeffrey Epstein, I do this for y'all, right? While we're on the subject of Jeffrey Epstein, how about this? How about we go over this real quick? Because we ain't got to read much of this, right? This is late night chill, so this ain't like the regular 2 hours joint. We gonna, know what I'm saying? We gonna do what we gotta do and get up out of here. But this is what we gonna do. Let's read this little PDF, right? Let's read this. What's that say? If y'all can see it, I'll zoom it in. I'll zoom it in for y'all. This is the infamous Jane Doe versus Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein case in 2016. Kind of got swiped up under the rug because the lady didn't want to appear in court, I believe. There's a couple of things that actually happened with that, but there's no need to get into that, right? I'm going to just read the meat and potatoes down here at 9. Plaintiff was enticed by promises of money and a modeling career to attend a series of parties with other similarly situated minor females held at a New York City residence that was being used by defendant Jeffrey Epstein. Now, where the fuck did we hear that one from? That sound real familiar, don't it? That sound real familiar with the actions, don't it? That sound very Diddy-esque, don't it? That sound very Epstein-esque, don't it? That sound very white party-ish, don't it? I'm just saying. At least 4 of the parties were attended by defendant Trump. Exhibit A and B on information and belief by this time. And in 1994, by the way, exhibits A and B, with, of course, the party videos, that's one thing. 1994, defendant Trump had known defendant Epstein for several years. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life and knew that plaintiff was then just 13 years old. Defendant Trump initiated sexual contact with plaintiff at 4 different parties. On the 4th and final sexual encounter, defendant Trump tied plaintiff to a bed, exposed himself to plaintiff, and then proceeded to forcibly rape plaintiff. During the course of this savage sexual attack, plaintiff loudly pleaded with defendant Trump to stop, but with no effect. Defendant Trump responded to plaintiff's pleas by violently striking plaintiff in the face with his open hand and screaming that he would do whatever he wanted. Exhibit A and B. Yes, there was pictures. Immediately following this rape, defendant Trump threatened plaintiff. Well, I don't know if there's pictures now. Immediately following this rape, defendant Trump threatened plaintiff that were she ever to reveal any of the details of the sexual and physical abuse of her by defendant Trump, plaintiff and her family would be physically harmed if not killed. There was another exhibits A and B. Defendant Epstein had sexual contact with plaintiff at 2 of the parties. The second sexual encounter with defendant Epstein took place after plaintiff had been raped by defendant Trump. Defendant Epstein forced himself upon plaintiff and proceeded to rape her anally and vaginally. Despite her loud pleas to stop, defendant Epstein then attempted to strike plaintiff about the head with his closed fist, while he angrily screamed at plaintiff that he, defendant Epstein, rather than defendant Trump, should have been the one who took plaintiff's virginity. Before plaintiff finally managed to break away from defendant Epstein, exhibit A and B, the threats of violence against plaintiff and her family continued, this time from defendant Epstein, who again reiterated the plaintiff was not to reveal any of the details of his sexual and physical abuse of her, or else specifically plaintiff and her family would be seriously physically harmed, if not killed. While still under threats of physical harm by coming forward and having no reason to believe that the threats have ever been lifted or would have been lifted, plaintiff, who has suffered from stress emotional distress, mental pain, and suffering, among other problems, ever since the assaults was subjected to daily painful reminders of the horrific acts of the one perpetrator's defendant Trump via mass media coverage of him starting on or about June 16, 2015, that over a short period of time became continuous and unavoidable. We don't really need to read much more of that, do we? Do we really need to read much more of that? Now, of course, there's some of you that say, okay, we already knew about this case. We already knew about this case, right? We knew about, okay, even if you knew about the case, even if you knew about the case, and you weren't aware of maybe his actions around the case and why they might have been saying some of the things that they were even saying.
Okay, you start and I'm ready.
In the wake of questions and allegations about Donald Trump's behavior towards women, ET discovered this footage in our archive, which we provided to CBS News.
Soon. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? Okay.
So Donald Trump's flirtations with illegality when it comes to his sexual exploits continue in this edition of Loser Donald. You've heard obviously about the Trump tapes and his desire to grab women by their crotches. Well, he's been busy in other activities too. It turns out that he's not just pathetic when it comes to moving heavily on women and trying to seduce them by buying them futons. Even when he just wants to see something titillating, he goes about it in an incredibly creepy way. So this was revealed earlier this year. Bridget Sullivan, a former Miss New Hampshire, told BuzzFeed last spring that Trump would walk through the dressing rooms of the Miss USA pageant that he was running to stare at the naked contestants. The campaign at the time denied the allegations strongly. Now, what's funny about that, you'll see in a second, it was confirmed more recently by Maria Bellato, the former Miss Vermont Teen USA, who told BuzzFeed that Trump caused a panic in the dressing room when he barged in unannounced as the young women, some of whom were as young as 15 years old, were...
That sounds like Drake with Hailey Bieber, don't it? Remember when Drake had Hailey Bieber in his dressing room with the titties out?
getting dressed.
At 15?
3 other former teen beauty queens who wish to remain anonymous corroborated Bellato's account. And so there we have, that's 5 former beauty queens all confirming. Now, Bellato also gave a quote about how she felt when it happened back in the, that was in the late 90s. She said, "I remember putting on my dress really quick because I was like, oh my God, there's a man in here." Bellato recalled Trump trying to calm the teenagers down by saying, "Don't worry, ladies, I've seen it all before. Don't you worry, I've seen naked 15-year-olds I'm attracted to before." Now, look, this could simply be a creepy incident of a guy who was too involved.
No. See, that's the thing. It's not even a read between the lines when someone says, "I've seen attractive 15-year-olds before." Just those words right there. I've seen naked 15-year-olds I've been attracted to before. That's it. Like, what more do you need to hear from someone after they say that? What more do you need to further believe that this person, could definitely be some type of pervert? Like, we've went over Diddy, we've went over Drake's situations and things he's been doing. Not Like Us was pretty much letting you guys know and whistleblowing, hey, the industry has some weird shit going on. And a lot of these people be here to police it. And he spoke specifically, understand, the number one song in America, Not Like Us, is about calling someone a pedophile. Okay? This ain't no different. This ain't no different. whether you want to believe the allegations or not, that's not for me to give you the answer or judgment. It's not. I am only here to inform the uninformed of who you might be voting for.
In the day-to-day running of his Miss USA pageant contest, and then he was just wandering around, and he happened to see the women like that. But the campaign denied the allegations 20 or so years after they happened, even though it was already known for years that this was not remotely true and that Trump didn't just happen upon these women. This was his design all along. He'd said this to Howard Stern years and years ago. I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show and everyone's getting dressed. No men are anywhere, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm expecting it. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women, and so I sort of get away with things like that. So yes, he goes in intentionally inspecting it, but what he's inspecting...
But see, that's the thing. When you hear get away with sort of things like that, again, that's the flex of the power. Is it not? That's the huge flex of the power right there. And I will never understand how that flex of the power just got swept up under the rug when people were abusing it like that. Even back in the day, I understand the threats and things like that. I just never understood how people were not allowed to necessarily speak out or, even have someone else speak out for them in some type of way. At the same time, I do understand the fear factor in things. I do understand that there is a huge fear factor in not necessarily knowing whether or not you're going to get a phone call saying that your mom passed away, or your father got killed, or your sister got killed, or your cousin got killed, all because you decided to say no to somebody. I can only imagine the fear factor in that, because a lot of that was happening, and the way these guys move is very mafia and mob style. So I can definitely, like I said, when you've heard so many different situations of the same, like I said, how many times have we literally on this pod went over a court case where in the rape it specifically said this was about, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't get what I was trying to get with the advances, or my family would get killed, or I would be harmed in some way, shape, form, or fashion if I didn't do what was, if I didn't comply, pretty much. So if the person didn't comply, some type of harm would be done. But it was always a sexual advance, and just that, a sexual advance for an advance. For a favor. Basically, you're giving all these promises for money and advancement of your future, all for sex, basically. That's the favor, basically. And like I said, it's sad how many people have actually been victims over the years that are just now being able to come out after having years and years and years, even decades, of different trauma, having to go to sleep with these things on their mind.
Is naked 15-year-olds. And so it's not just that he tries to seduce married women by buying them furniture and then they shoot him down. It's not just that he subconsciously understands that if he tries to kiss a woman, she's likely to run away, so he grabs her by the pussy first. Even when he just wants to see something he's attracted to, he does it in absolutely the most non-consensual, creepy way imaginable. By busting into dressing rooms of women who are just trying to compete in some stupid pageant and watching them as they're naked, despite the fact that some of them won't be legal to have sexual relations with for 3 years. Now, this was a while ago. This was 20 years ago or so. But that still makes him an approximately 50-year-old man who is trying to ogle naked 15-year-olds. So look, this is not one of the loser Donalds that should determine your vote in this election. This doesn't have huge policy implications. It does perhaps have legal implications, since he was intentionally, of his own words, trying to see naked underage girls dress. But no, this is just another example of how inherently pathetic he is. That when it comes to his sex drive and his sexual appetite, he knows that women are not interested. He knows women don't want to kiss him. They don't want to be touched by him. They don't want to be seen by him. So he sets up situations through spending millions of dollars so that he can, against their will, at least see something a bit naughty. Doesn't matter if it's a teenager or whatever. Absolutely pathetic. Classic loser Donald on display.
Well, like I said, if you don't want to believe necessarily what happened back then, that's okay. But understand this. Things get swept up under the rug when there's a fear factor involved.
And breaking news involving a woman who claims Donald Trump raped her when she was 13.
KCAL9's Peter Dowd is live in Woodland Hills now, where the woman was set to go public less than an hour ago. Peter.
Yeah, Lena and Juan, definitely some confusion here since that woman who is accusing Trump of raping her when she was a child decided not to appear. Instead, her attorney came out and said that the woman was too afraid to speak. Media from all over the world came out to hear what that woman had to say. Now, this was a planned news conference, but it didn't happen. The woman had filed a lawsuit alleging Trump sexually assaulted her at several different parties in 1994 when she was only 13 years old. Attorney Lisa Bloom said the woman, who has gone by the pseudonym Jane Doe, had received numerous terrible threats and gave a short statement.
Jane Doe has received numerous threats today, as have all the Trump accusers that I have represented. She is living in fear. She has decided that she is too afraid to show her face. She's been here all day, ready to do it, but unfortunately, she's in terrible fear.
Bloom is the daughter of attorney Gloria Allred, who has also held press conferences with women accusing Trump of sexual assault, but Trump's attorneys have vigorously denied those allegations, and they're threatening legal action after the election. Juan and Lena?
And see, that's the thing. That's the thing. Motherfuckers don't scare me. Motherfuckers do not scare me as far as that go. You're not going to scare me into not speaking the truth. That's the thing. You ain't got nothing to scare me with. You ain't got shit to scare me with. Okay? As far as that go. My life could be on the line as far as telling the truth. Because the truth shall set you free, as they say. The truth shall set you free. And I was hoping, or should I say a lot of people were actually hoping that the truth would set her free. But because she was heavily threatened, as well as a lot of, as you heard the lady say, the attorney defending everyone, or representing everyone, I should say, all of her clients have been threatened. Every last one of her clients were threatened by Trump. And I would say not just the voters. See, that's the thing. It ain't just the voters. I already knew that majority of the people that were in the comments probably wasn't even real people. Some of the comments wasn't even. There was one that said user guide some shit. I was like, yo, all right. It was some people that probably were real, but then there were people I knew weren't. I'm like, I can understand, like I said, when there's a paid campaign for someone to, make it look a certain way. That's no different than when they said bots were paid for Drake to have more dislikes than he had likes on a certain record, right? On that final Kendrick diss record he did. He had more dislikes than he had likes, right? We all know that's bots doing that because that's never happened to Drake before. At the same time, it's no different than, like I said, when there's bots in my comments on the Shannon Sharp shit, or there's, like I said, hate bots to say something else about someone. Just so happens there were anti-Drake bots on one of the other videos that I recently did where I was like, yo, he avoided him at the party or whatever. Now, you can tell there was genuinely real people there, too. There's a lot of real people actually commented on that. Let me say that first and foremost. But you can also tell that there were bots in between that to say when another thing basically against, pretty much standing up for Drake is what I'm trying to say. There were bots within that same video comments trying to defend Drake at the same time. You can definitely tell that. And like I said, I don't necessarily care for when the bots are necessarily in the comments as much as I care for when it's, like I said, my actual core audience saying that I actually was wrong about something. If I don't hear that, then I don't necessarily even go by the other full shield, the surface level shit, right?